We'll talk about injuries in NXT, AEW getting bloody, Untitled changes happen, and Chris Jericho's big 30th anniversary. Plus, your comments on screen with us live tonight. If you're listening on the podcast feed, thank you so much. It's pretty cool. It's WrestleZone! What's up, everybody? I am Kevin Kellam. This is the WrestleZone post show for AEW and WWE NXT, but I can't do it alone. No, I got to bring in my man from Central PA, the man who brings the thunder. Is he giving it a 7.5, dog? We'll find out on tonight's episode of the WrestleZone wrap-up. He's dropping the 2 sweets, so it seems like it must be a pretty good thing. He's on NXT because that's where his loyalty stands. He checks his bias at the door. I appreciate that, John Clark. But you'll still tell us when the show falls short, correct? We're still gonna get the clean review from you, correct?
Absolutely.
Plenty to cover on the first episode of NXT Television inside the Capitol Center. Did that look cool? Because it looked great at NXT TakeOver on Sunday, right?
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I think they went a little bit overboard with the virtual fans. I think it was too many. They had like every 2 inches was a person. They could have made it a little bit bigger and had less people. Otherwise, it looked really good.
All right, so if you're with us live, don't forget to get your comments on screen. People on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your comments still going to pop up on screen with our people on Facebook as well. Plenty to cover, plenty of content for you to keep devouring on our podcast feed, and a lot to cover on tonight's show. AEW certainly had a very, very eventful show over on TNT. I covered that, so we'll get into that first. Plus, we'll talk about the WWE Draft. So we're going to have plenty to do in this show. If you're watching live and you want to finish the rest, don't worry. There's plenty here. All right? If 9 p.m. Central is too late for you, there's plenty to follow here. You want to avoid all the noise of the vice presidential debates. There's plenty to get into. And don't worry, we'll get your questions and comments on screen as we're live. Don't forget to share that link as well. All right, I did all the homework. Let's talk some wrestling, John Clark. All right, AEW presented the special 30th anniversary edition of a Chris Jericho focused episode of Dynamite. And it was a very fun episode. There was a lot of really good matches on this show and a lot of celebrity appearances. They did several different segments where people kind of sent in quick video bites praising Chris Jericho on 30 years of his astounding career. He was featured, of course, in the main event. They had celebrity appearances from Gabriel Iglesias, Paul Stanley of Kiss, Lars Ulrich of Metallica, Kevin Smith, Eli Roth, Shaquille O'Neal, Ultimo Dragon. Yeah, that one caught me off guard. Lance Storm, the man he had his first match with, and Chavo Guerrero as well, who actually Gabriel Iglesias had to hold up an iPad so that they could do that because he's in Australia. I thought this was really, really entertaining. These added to the gravitas of the show and remind you that AEW is now a legitimate big brand. You don't get big celebrities like that. They won't go and put themselves on any show. But they'll go and do it on a show like AEW. Come on, the rub of all those different names. It's got to be legit, right?
Yeah, if they can definitely get videos or appearances from these people, it speaks volumes by how much they've come in 1 year, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it was certainly interesting. We had plenty of different takes here, and of course, a lot of people already sending in their scores. If you're with us live for the first time, don't forget to show us your scores for what you thought of tonight's AEW and NXT. How did they rate with you? 1 being a Bastion Booger, 10 being Chris Jericho's your dad. All right, so tell us what you thought of the shows. Give us your 1 to 10. I'll tell you mine in just a little bit. This show was featured Brian Cage versus Will Hobbes opening up here. Big strongman match, and obviously I think an FTW match is weird. Is the FTW title supposed to mean something? It still feels odd. Brian Cage victorious in this fairly short match, though obviously, you know, it's a frustration for Hobbes. He's a fairly new character. He missed that frog splash, and the drill claw cost him the win. No, I wouldn't call it the greatest match because there was plenty of different things that were definitely out featuring the show. I mean, we had New Japan's Hiroshi Tanahashi follow up with that, and that just made people lose their mind. Bully Ray was on this as well, doing these different promos. So those kind of interspersed through the night. I actually think people were popping for those on Twitter more than some of the incredible matches on this, but I don't blame you. It's big celebrities on the show. You're not expecting it, and there's surprise appearances at that. AEW World Tag Team match. This was a really, really fun match. I thought this was probably even better than the match we saw last week with SCU versus FTR. This is their 20 minutes of greatness concept. And this kind of flew by. I don't know if this actually went 20 minutes, but it showed off what FTR can do in the dynamics that they can have with different teams in terms of different moves. I mean, they say they're one of the best tag teams in the world, and they definitely are proving it. Suplex and doing backflips, hybrid 2.0, Jack Evans. This team really will do some fun dynamic things, but FTR, I'm surprised for such an old school minded team that they blend so well with these new high flying teams, right? They never seem like they're out of place in that.
Yeah, I think they do very good at adapting to whoever their opponents are. It always seems like no matter who it is, what kind of talent they are, what their style is, they always find a way to adapt and make it a good match.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people giving some good scores here. Some people giving 9.5s. Other people joining us here as well. Bit again saying NXT was a great show. We'll talk to you about NXT in just a minute. We have people joining us from Malaysia. Shout out where you guys are watching from. We'll get this up here on screen as well. Thank you guys so much for your comments and support of the show. And don't forget to share the link. Maybe tag your buddies in here too. I enjoyed this match. It's really good. The tease here is the Young Bucks. They're watching from backstage. They super kick the cameraman. So I'm expecting the Young Bucks super kicking the cameraman point of view thing to immediately become a GIF that AEW fans are using. Come on, that's a fun GIF. Someone kicking the camera. It was fun. You just don't like fans on the internet. John just wants to avoid people on the internet, man. He's not having
it. It's just going to be one of those things that, like Chris Jericho's list, it's just one of those things that becomes a thing, and it's like an every week thing, and it gets boring, and yeah.
True. This was a fun match. They're teasing something with them and the Bucks, but really the next match they have is Best Friends. Best Friends kind of cut off the Young Bucks watching the match on the big screen right afterwards, their celebration sort of, and they have a screen capture of FTR as hot dogs. This is silly. And they said they're weenies. And it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be like good, bad comedy, I guess is what they're going for. And I think what they're trying to do is poke fun at WWE's immature comedy. Maybe.
Of course they are.
But it was also like but it is their style. It is Chuck and Trent's style to be like call people weenies and stuff like that. I'm gonna adjust my lights a little bright in here. Little bright. So I thought it was kind of silly. They pull it off though because they're smart asses. It worked. And next week we'll get Best Friends versus FTR on the anniversary show. Technically, the anniversary, I believe, is this week. SmackDown is doing this. Their anniversary on Fox is this week. What a wild week October 2019 was, the first week of October. But they're pushing it back next week just because they want to do the Jericho thing this week. And it's an interesting match. How compelling is that? Or just feel like a foregone conclusion that this is just a holdover until they fight the Bucks?
Yes. I definitely think that's what it is, and it seems like they're trying to draw it out. I'm not sure why.
They got that pay-per-view. I mean, that pay-per-view is coming up in
next month.
Yeah, next month. So they have enough time to really do that if they're going to go with the Bucks versus FTR, and it seems like they're going in that direction. Certainly some people thought that would be a dream match that maybe they would hold out for on the other side of the pandemic, but we don't know when that's going to be. So I understand it. I think saying you're having that match for the first time in front of fans is pretty special. There was obviously the big match. I think the selling point of tonight and the way it was positioned was to get on air before the vice presidential debate, which was set to happen at 9 Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And that would have pulled a lot of viewers away from both shows. And this show,
I want to say something real quick about that.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, NXT does very well with the 50 and over demographic.
Yeah, I don't see that happening tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, these debates will pull a lot of that. So I just want to put it out there that expect NXT's number to be lower this week because of
or
that.
maybe even AEW's too. I think this number will affect them as well. I mean, those are really, really big news stories. We've seen that happen, or maybe it doesn't affect them at all.
Like when Monday Night Football started, we were surprised that Raw was unaffected at all. So
I mean, its numbers are down now, but I mean, when it started, we expected a bigger drop.
Yeah.
SmackDown had that a few weeks ago when we heard the news of Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing away. We thought, they're going to lose a bunch of viewers on Friday night.
SmackDown's still able to at least usually get 2 million though, which at this day and age, that's good. I mean, we used to be talking about 3-4 million. Now 2 million is like the cap.
TV viewership is completely different, though. I mean, it's just completely different. There's so many different more options, so many more people that watch it over the weekend too.
Illegal streaming.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of people and then there's plenty of people that just follow on social media. They don't watch the show. They just kind of want to see what the reactions are. But also, this was the big selling point of the show. They got it on 5 minutes before those debates started, and it was the dog collar match, the TNT Championship against a new brooding, dark Cody versus Mr. Brody Lee. Someone got bloody within like a minute or two of this. John Silver was bloodied. He was ushered to the back right away. The 16-foot steel chain. This was a fun, violent match. They went to the commercial break with Brody bleeding. Cody was bleeding right away, and there was a lot of blood, and then there's blood. So you see how you and I are in picture, John? Imagine I'm fighting over here, and I'm dripping blood, but over there is Taco Bell. Like, you know what I mean? Or like over there is like a Google phone. Yeah. And it was very odd. I wish I had some screenshots of it to show you guys. We can't do screenshots with our new layout. How about this new layout, huh? I love it. Come on, man. We're in Daly's place right now with this new layout. I know you're not a fan of that, but this looks legit. Kudos. Oh, come on. Don't rub the screen. You can't hide it. All right. But kudos to Robert DeFelice for making this happen. This looks legit, man. This bloodiness while something's on the other side of the screen was kind of ridiculous, but they did a pile driver through a table during the commercial break. So that was kind of off. But outside of that, this was a really, really violent match. If you want hardcore blood and guts, right? They can't do the blood and guts match, but you got blood and guts tonight. This was brutal, and Cody won. I was not expecting Cody to win. I was definitely. I was expecting some dusty shenanigans. I was expecting the Dark Order to get involved and them to find some way to get this thing on. But they went really, really violent. They really whipped each other with the chain. There was one near the end. The chain wrapped around Brody's face after he was bloody. It looked like the cover of a heavy metal album. And then the Crossroads, and he won. It was we had Arn Anderson getting in there, laying a spine buster on one member of the Dark Order there. I don't know. I always get worried when I see Arn Anderson, a guy who has his own physical limitations in the ring there. But this is a fun match. This is really, really good. This could have fit perfectly on a pay-per-view. And kudos to AEW to give away these big matches on TV to fans, to keep it competitive and to keep you going, and also pace it out far enough from the pay-per-view where it doesn't feel like they're giving something away.
When is their pay-per-view? The date of that?
Full Gear, I think, is going to be. I have to double check on that. I don't know the exact date. If someone's watching, let me know.
Is their go home show the same night as Halloween?
It's November 9th.
It's a week after. Okay.
Yeah. So they have. Yeah.
Did they give any kind of indication or anything that they're going to do something on October 28th to compete with Halloween Havoc, or they didn't? Okay.
They did not. I assume they'll announce some big type of match
maybe
that
next
night
week or something.
Yeah, and that they'll announce something that's going to be competitive. But I was expecting something 2 weeks out. But the time frame of what they're promoting did lend itself to here's the 30th anniversary of Jericho here on October 7th, and then coming up next week we're going to have our 1 year anniversary on TNT. That'll feature Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer. That match is delayed due to a COVID situation with Lance Archer. So they have their time frame set up, but I was surprised we didn't see the counterplay right away, that it wasn't there. But they already had all their stuff laid out. We're going to have all these cool celebrities on the show saying hi to Chris Jericho, and it was fun, and that added a lot to the show. It made the show look really, really big time. This dog collar match was low down and dirty. That Greg the Hammer Valentine was in attendance, and they cut to him a couple of times, and he looked like he was having an okay time. Greg the Hammer Valentine, of course, had a famous dog collar match with Roddy Piper. If you've never seen it, go watch that on the network. It's like if you just want low down, dirty, mean people hitting each other with a chain, That's one of the best times it's ever happened. And this may be one of the best dog collar matches I've ever seen. Sometimes these are just okay, and it's kind of plotting, and they have to use the chain in a certain way. But kudos to Brody, and also surprised they took the title off Brody. I thought maybe they would kind of keep this going to the pay-per-view, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing so much right now that is beneficial to the viewer because they somehow just know how to cater to viewers very good. It's kind of weird to me that they do such a good job at that.
I mean, it's not weird when they kind of only they have very, like, in comparison to WWE is so much content, and they have to build it to different things on multiple different brands and spin so many different plates. With AEW, it's just dark. It's one show, and it's dark, and then they do some other things. And sometimes they've let fans down with, like, the Women's Dudley Cup tournament. A lot of fans didn't really feel that much, but that wasn't on TV. And, you know, the women were featured tonight. Fine match with Serena Deeb and Big Swole. Big Swole, there was some COVID fears with her, but she's never confirmed that. So thankfully she's okay. Good to see her back in the ring. She looks strong, but it's nothing super big to run home about. And then we also get to this main event tonight. This is an odd one, as Chris Jericho's big 30th celebration is going to feature him and Jake Hager versus his longtime friend in wrestling, deathmatch legend, Japanese deathmatch legend, Dr. Luther in Serpentico. I'll just say this. It was not a good night for Dr. Luther. He kind of slipped off the apron during one spot where he was trying to grab Jericho and do a bulldog.
How old is he?
He's up there. I mean, this is a guy who's I don't know how active he's been in wrestling recently, but he's been, you know, back in AEW for quite some time. He's had much more of a secondary role, and was a big part of Jericho's career in Japan as well. So it made sense that they would be in the ring together on his 30th anniversary show. But it just wasn't a good night. It didn't make Jericho look good, and it was good that Jericho gave him the Judas kiss and it ended him. That move is over now. You know, when that move started, there were some people like, you know, I don't get it. Now it makes complete sense. And it makes complete sense in the post-match of this as well. So Jericho's going to have his big celebration, cut this, and the inner circle's in the ring, and he's going to say, thank you for 30 years. And they have the signs in the crowd. Mask crowd, by the way. And MJF cuts him off. They've had some interactions the past few weeks. MJF cuts him off and comes out with a clown. And the clown gives him this picture of MJF in a big frame. Jericho grabs it, smashes it over the clown, gives him the Judas kiss. And he goes, I don't like clowns. And I was like, it's such a good line. It's so good. It looks like we're going to get Jericho versus MJF at Full Gear. That's a big time match. I mean, they teased that they're still getting along and that it was just like a silly joke or something like that. But that's a big time match. MJF versus Jericho. Didn't that feel like a marquee match to you to put on a pay-per-view?
I think to an extent, if they're finally going to put MJF over in a big-time match at a pay-per-view, I feel like he always gets the short end of the stick after a great build, great storytelling, and he always seems to come up short. I think in this feud, he needs to come out on top. I'm on the same page with that. I think this is a match that Jericho needs to win, or no, excuse me, MJF needs to win. Jericho doesn't need to win, especially as much as MJF does, coming off that title loss. He had an undefeated streak for a long time and was doing matches on pay-per-view, but never doing the big feature match. But he certainly has that electricity. There is something with him and Chris Jericho, but they're both supposed to be heels, I guess. But I'm getting the sense that maybe they're going to let Jericho kind of come out of that because he simply is so over. And people just love Chris Jericho. That maybe, you know, the inner circle will be there, but Jericho will take this one on alone. That's the way I see this one going. Fun episode of AEW. It's way better than last week's episode. Kind of underwhelming on the main event for Chris Jericho's big 30th anniversary. He was in there. He had some fun stuff with Serpentico. But not a great night for Dr. Luther. So that would be my only letdown. Like it didn't feel like a momentous match. But it felt very cool to see AEW mention New Japan Pro Wrestling more than a few times, we got a lot of people talking on Twitter. Is there going to be a New Japan AEW partnership? We'll talk about that. But what is the rating for tonight's AEW Dynamite? That's supposed to be my very very bad drum roll. I never have natural rhythm. I give it a solid 7.8, dog. It's a 7.8. I want to give this an 8,
But Dr. Luther was kind of weird. Like, it was just kind of weird to see him in the main event. It just didn't click. But everything else about it was really, really cool. Very, very fun episode. Way better than last week's episode of AEW Dynamite. And definitely go see this dog collar match. Maybe the best match I've seen from AEW since a few weeks ago. Better than everything I've seen from them in the past few weeks. Absolutely have to go see it, especially if you love dirty, hardcore, extreme wrestling. Go see that match. So what happened over on NXT? We will talk about some big things happening outside of NXT and AEW. We got the draft this week. We'll do some draft picks before the end of the show tonight. But tell me about NXT tonight. We had two pretty serious injuries.
Yeah, so we get the show kicked off with a nice match between Tommaso and Kushida. It was a very fun opening match that actually saw Tommaso get the upper hand by disqualification. A lot of people are not happy about this because it appears they are extending the feud between Velveteen Dream and Kushida. Velveteen Dream interfered in the match, and it just appears that Velveteen Dream's not going away anytime soon. And people are like, they don't want him taking away momentum from Kushida because usually they like to do this 50-50 booking. So, I don't know, Kevin. We got Velveteen Dream in this again. I thought maybe Kushida was going to move on. Where do you think they're going with this?
I think they should have moved on as well. I mean, Kushida had such a strong night at TakeOver. He looked like the guy that he was always supposed to be when he came over from New Japan. And that kind of fulfilled the promise that a lot of people wanted. That, all right, now you got him ready and give it up for Dream. Made him look like $1 million and sold like crazy for him. And then starting off with him and Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa is a guy who's kind of very available and still has a lot of star power behind him and wrestles very sparingly. So put him in there on TV with Kushida. I'm surprised they didn't really advertise or build to that. There could have been a match that maybe could have moved some people or at least held them into the next hour of the show. But it's interesting that they're going to keep it going with him and Dream. I think Tommaso and Kushida could be a really, really cool program. I would like to see where that goes.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Their chemistry was a little off at the beginning. They both have similar styles in the ring, so it kind of took a while for them to adapt to each other. I'd be interested in seeing where that goes next. So that was pretty good. Then next up, we had Ember Moon to come out to the ring to cut a promo.
Big return for her on Sunday. That was huge.
Yes.
It was a very, very big return. She's been out of the ring for like a long, long time.
Yeah, well, her first sentence in the ring was after 14 long months of rehab and injury, torn Achilles, she's back, and pretty much she said that she's changed because now, she's not going to do what anybody tells her because, damn it, she's Ember Moon, is what she said. And she was just about to call out Io, but before she could, Io came out to interrupt. Io came into the ring, and before she could talk, Ripley comes out to the ring. Before she could talk, she gets attacked from behind by Gonzalez. Ember Moon goes out to help her, and Io stays in the ring. So we go to a quick commercial. When we come back from the commercial, Io's backstage with an interview, and they're asking her why she didn't help. And she basically says, Ember's not my problem. Ripley's not my problem. This title's my problem. So it appears it's a little bit of a delaying tactic, and I'm not sure where they're going next with the women's division in NXT. What do you think?
That seems a bit messy to me. I mean, you got to see it. I didn't. And you're doing a lot of different things. I'm surprised they didn't really just let Ember have the spotlight for not being in the ring for a year and a half, and really just let her settle into a lane. But I mean, the way they introduced her was in a multi-man thing. They said Toni Storm is coming back, and then here comes.
But she wasn't there tonight. No mention of her.
Interesting. I mean, they're making it seem like she's going to be back on NXT at some point in the United States on that side. Surprising that they put so many people in there, but maybe this is just a sense of, all right, let's just try and do two different segments on top of each other so we can fit more into the show.
So I'm thinking, if you're the one that's booking the show, who do you put with Io next? Do you put just one? Do you do a multi-women match? Who do you think is next?
It looks like we're going to get a multi-women match to move on to face her at the next TakeOver. So, or at least something at the Halloween Havoc show, which is what they have coming up on October 28th. So, at least that's the way I would see it kind of lay out. But I'm surprised they really didn't just let Ember have the spotlight and then threw into this big multi-person thing.
Yeah, so that was a very good segment. We transitioned into the continuation of the Drake Maverick and Killian Dane tag team. They are definitely moving forward with this. They made it kind of a comedy act tonight. Drake Maverick picked out the theme music, which was very quirky, piano, kitty type music. Um, he said he's been texting Killian Dane for weeks, and Killian Dane's
He's
like,
not responding.
he's like, you don't even have my number. How are you texting me? And so they did that thing. They had a match against Everrise where basically Killian Dane did most of the work. Maverick tagged himself in at the end. Killian Dane wasn't happy with it. So he took out both members of Everrise and he threw Drake Maverick on top of him so Drake could get the pin. And then after the match, he did the thing where he punched Maverick in the face, knocked him right out. But this time, when he left the ring, he had a moment where he thought, turned around, picked up Maverick over his shoulders, and walked out with him. So I think we're slowly
I heard,
building.
like I said, you get to watch NXT live. I watch AEW live. This, when I was seeing this kind of play out on wrestling Twitter, I have the tweet deck up. I'm looking at all the different feeds. I was like, oh, I want to see that. And that looks like such a fun tag team. They look like they have such a fun dynamic. Say what you want about Drake's re-signing with WWE and staying with them through the Cruiserweight tournament. A lot of people thought he would go the singles route. He is very much a guy who plays well with others. Like when he has some type of relationship with another character on screen, he looks great.
These two have been paired together for a reason. Maverick is a good comedy performer, and he can definitely sell better than almost anybody. And Dane is extremely talented, but he might have limited upside in the ring. He kind of works better in spurts, not really long, not long parts of action. I think this is going to be the next decently big tag team in NXT. With Everrise kind of being like a jobber tag team, Indus Sher has been gone ever since they leaked the Keith Lee win. Need more tag teams coming up here, and I think this is going to be the one.
I think you're absolutely right. It'll be interesting if what shakeups happen with the draft here. If maybe someone comes over from SmackDown or Raw over there. We'll see what happens. So tag team is something they would need there too. What are the other big highlights on this week's NXT? I know we had some lowlights. Specifically, what is this situation with NXT champion Finn Balor? Him and Kyle O'Reilly beat the holy hell out of each other. Wade Barrett saying on the internet today that they are both going to be banged up for weeks. And we heard that Finn Balor had a broken jaw. He confirmed it.
Yes, it was confirmed on the episode tonight that Finn Balor does indeed have a broken jaw. They estimate he'll be out of action at least 6 weeks. But Finn Balor did a promo where he pretty much confirmed that he will not be relinquishing this champion and will work through it. So interesting to know how they said he'll be out at least 6 weeks, and then he comes on and says, but I'm going to work through this as a fighting champion. I'm not giving up this belt. What do they do? What do you think they do? How do they make this work?
That's interesting that they say. I mean, they're confirming it. It looks like
6 weeks is damn close to the pay-per-view by Survivor Series.
It's a long time to not have your television champion, your televised champion.
I don't think you can afford to vacate a second champion in a row.
No,
I don't think you can do that.
I mean, if they can find a way to get him on TV and have his role involved, and maybe have him on commentary.
No, here's something I thought of. If they do vacate the champion from him, they do of Finn Balor vacated title versus Karrion Kross vacated title. They fight to be the real champion. But then you have to go all that time without a champion. I don't know if they want to do that, but that's what I would do.
I don't know if they want to do that either. It just doesn't do them any favors. It's just bad timing. There is another superstar who's primed for some big things with them on NXT that had some bad timing as well. And it's also a reminder if, Balor and O'Reilly want to work that strong style. They had themselves a match on Sunday. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's really, really good. I applaud them for what they tried to do. But maybe I think they walked too fine a line on the edge of a sword here with these injuries. We don't know the extent of how banged up Kyle O'Reilly was, but he didn't look that great coming out of that match. And you had Balor bleeding from the mouth. And if you're bleeding from the mouth and you have a broken jaw, I'm worried.
Yeah.
And also, he's cutting promos, but it's going to limit your ability to speak. How bad is this going to be? He's going to have his jaw wired shut. Who knows? I don't know the extent of these things, but 6 weeks saying that is pretty harsh. So they do have a shelf of people they can lean into, but I was surprised they didn't set anything up for Ciampa. I think he's one of the big guys on the bench for them right now that they haven't done something with. Did they say anything with Ciampa in that match with Kushida tonight? Maybe allude to something else with him?
No, nope.
Surprising. Very, very surprising there. I was expecting maybe something else. But we did have another unfortunate injury, and this involves someone who laid out Adam Cole and was featured right at the end of the pay-per-view, right after that big title match on Sunday at TakeOver. Rich Holland slumps the defeated body of Adam Cole over the railing and hands it over to the Undisputed Era and walks away. We're thinking Rich Holland, this former rugby player from the UK, comes over to NXT and has this big spotlight put on him right away. A lot of people making some Brock Lesnar comparisons with him. He's been featured in squash matches the last few weeks. All right, here he is in not just saying, I'm slowly going to enter into a singles program with a big established star. No, I'm just going to go right into it. I thought that was interesting. He shows up this week with a Mercedes that he didn't have last week. I saw that. That was interesting. Was he paid to be there? Oh, we have a compelling story. Him and Adam Cole, what's going on here? And then tonight took a different turn, right?
Yeah, so Undisputed Era came on. They did a promo where they said, listen, we know we've had a rough week, but we need to come together, turn our attention to Ridge Holland. Adam Cole says, you broke my ribs, and you will pay for this. You will not forget what you did. So, fast forward, Ridge Holland has a match with Danny Burch. Good, hard, back-and-forth match until an awkward spot with Ridge's leg that made the ref throw the X symbol up. Immediate ending with the pinfall there. And I'll tell you, the injury, it's hard to tell how serious it looked, but the way his leg twisted did not look good. We don't want to fake rumors or make speculation, but it looked like he tweaked his ankle. It looked like he might have broken his ankle. He was clearly set up for a major push and a big feud with Adam Cole, and I still think he will get this major push upon his return. Hopefully it's not too long. I mean, I know you might not have saw it, Kevin, yourself, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they'll still continue with this? I saw some
pictures of it. It didn't look particularly great. It looked like a really bad night for Ridge here, and your leg shouldn't bend in that direction.
Now this is interesting because we do have. We'll be talking about this a little bit later tonight. We do have the draft coming up. If there is something pretty bad with Holland where he's going to be out for a while, do you pull the trigger on Adam Cole and move him up because this is what you had scheduled for him? If you don't have that anymore, do you say, okay, well, now what do we do with him?
I don't know. It's very. I mean, NXT's had so many curveballs.
Tell you what, you got the idea tonight from watching NXT that everybody on there has something going on where they will not be drafted, except Tommaso was the only one that even you could think, well, they'd have nothing for him right now. Ripley, they found something for her. Adam Cole, they found something for him. It doesn't look like they're going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, how is NXT going to be affected by the draft? I think you're going to see someone move. You're going to see someone move from NXT to Raw or SmackDown, and who is that going to be? Are we going to see them near the end of the draft? How many draft picks are they going to be? They haven't kind of WWE's been. They're saying you're getting a draft on SmackDown and you're getting it on Raw, and how is it going to play out? We don't exactly know. And they have, I mean, even Triple H, who obviously has an insight on this, was very coy about this on the media call before and after TakeOver this week. You can listen to it. It's in our podcast feed. He said he doesn't know, and he was trying to be very legit, even though he's kind of coy. I think he knows something, but he wouldn't make it clear whether or not anyone from SmackDown or Raw was coming over. So he making it seem like they're still working on what's going to happen here. And also WWE is very protective of those draft picks. They really don't want people knowing about them before they come out because they want them to be something you tune in and want to see. And I understand that, but it's hard to see what's going to happen here. If Adam Cole doesn't have a dance partner on NXT, is this how you break up the Undisputed Era? I don't know. I don't know if that's the way to do it. Maybe there's some other way to do it. Tommaso Ciampa, though, as I was saying earlier, I think it's time. Maybe you do something with him on SmackDown or Raw.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So we had two other parts of NXT tonight. The first was it finally looked like Austin Theory was going to look strong. He comes out, he has a match with Leon Ruff, and he absolutely kills him. And then he decides to grab a mic and call out anybody on the roster saying
bad idea.
Saying that
this on a house show. If you've been to a WWE house show ever, they do this with a heel all the time. It's a really fun thing they'll do.
Yes.
They'll have the most over mid-card heel. He'll come out, he'll wreck somebody, and he'll wreck some goon, he'll just wreck somebody, and then some big monster will come out and destroy him. Or that person gets beat more than once. They keep trying to challenge him.
He brags about his future. He says nobody can get into his way. and he basically says, "Who wants to have a match?" And here comes the returning Dexter Lumis for a match. And he absolutely blows Theory out of the water, makes him tap out. And I'll tell you what, though, and we've talked about this before, Austin Theory does have natural talent, and he does fit in with NXT. All things aside, he's a talented wrestler.
Yeah.
Loomis has certainly been somebody that a lot of people have missed, and I am curious to see what they do with him next. And it appears it's going to be Cameron Grimes and Loomis in their own program.
Two interesting characters to pair up there. Two really character-driven guys you can do something with. I'm not sold on it. I would like a little bit. It's kind of salt and salt. I want salt and pepper a little bit. But I can see something there. But I bet Cameron Grimes being really scared of Dexter Lumis can be entertaining too. So
yep. Last part of the show tonight was the tag team match that was set up at the beginning of the show. Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley teamed up against Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. I'll tell you what. Ember Moon looked fantastic. She did not miss a beat. And this match was really focused on Ember Moon showing her talent.
So this was the spotlight they weren't going to give her.
Yes, Ember made the most of the spotlight. She was high-flying all over the ring, jumping and flipping and doing all these kinds of moves. Mm-hmm. She's looked the best I've ever seen her. I'm not going to lie. And this proved that Ember Moon versus anybody in NXT is going to be an absolute banger in the future. And they could go one of two ways here, and I want to get your input on which one you think they're going to do. We got Ember Moon and Ripley. Do they because tonight they kind of teased they were going to be like a little bit of a team moving forward, kind of looking out for each other. Do they stick to that route, or do we see a banger Moon versus Ripley match at some point?
It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, with Ember, I think maybe her with a tag team could be a way to really develop a rivalry from that. Could be interesting. I mean, has something to prove. But I do think the best way is to have her be a single star when we haven't seen her on television in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And is going to be a fresh take on things.
This was without a doubt the best part of NXT tonight.
All right. But it was certainly her night to win. And who won the match?
Ember Moon. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Here we go.
So
right call makes sense.
I give the show an 8 out of 10 tonight.
All right, an 8 out of 10. So good night on both channels tonight for you.
And yep. And one briefly thing we should say is they did not announce anything or build anything up for Halloween Havoc yet.
Which
so
I don't get. You think they would? I mean, we're getting Halloween Havoc. We know we're getting a theme. We know Shotzi Blackheart.
Free. We're getting it for free,
and it'll be on television. So it'll be interesting as to what they do
with host Shotzi Blackheart. That's the only thing we know.
She's spooky. She likes spooky things. She's into horror movies, so she has to be that person.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Hopefully we get a spin the wheel, make a deal. We get some old school WCW jokes with it. Got to do something with it. Some other big WWE news this week with women came out today. Renee Young, her husband, maybe the AEW heavyweight champion of the world, Jon Moxley, she may have left WWE, and our last time we saw her was in the pre-show for SummerSlam.
She didn't leave Fox, though.
She did not leave Fox. Some people saying that she still has some type of agreement with Fox. She'll be a part of the WWE Anniversary Edition on Fox on October 16th. This week's edition, October 9th, will be a part of the draft. We will talk your draft picks in the final segment of the show. But what do you think of this? Renee Young coming back. It looks like it's just a one-shot. Doesn't seem like she's going to re-sign with them. She does have a cookbook coming out. This just seems like a fun little appearance by her on TV, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be interesting to see how they build Renee into this, because if it's a one-time thing, do you just have her as a host with Booker, and was there a third person they announced for that or no? I think I don't remember.
I don't know. I would assume
they're going to do it like red carpet style is what they're going to do, like they did last year. So I think they just bring her in for one night. She knows what she's doing. They can trust her, and I think they just kind of let it be after that.
It's worth noting that Fox sent this release to us. This wasn't from WWE. So this comes from Fox Sports. They confirmed it. So it'll be interesting to how they do that. Also, Sunday, October 11th, WWE The Best Moments of 2020, an exciting look back at the year's biggest stars and most memorable moments, will air adjacent to Sunday's regional NFL broadcast. So if you're out of market, they may affect you. So you may be
Wait, say that again. What'd you say?
So they're going to have a special. It's going to air on Sunday afternoon.
Who is?
WWE with Fox.
Oh, yes. I remember.
This will air at 1 p.m. Eastern. And so basically, and then 4:05. So in and around when you have football games in that time, if you don't have an out-of-market football game, if you have kind of blackouts in your market, that'll be kind of how they deal with it. Interesting time to be on air. Good time for them to get the rub of, especially if it's just a clip show. That's a fun rub for them. I do think Fox is doing a better job of giving WWE the rub of being next to sports. When they did this rollout last year, they had Rey Mysterio at a game and like the commentators didn't know who that was. And it was it was just annoying. And I think since they developed the WWE Backstage show, which is no more on Fox Sports 1, they have a better sense of what they're dealing with.
I never get tired of hearing Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Fox Sunday saying, tune into SmackDown this Friday. And they always talk about, whatever the big main event is. And like, you can tell they have no idea what they're talking about. Then every time after one of those segments, they always say like, and the Bears are putting a smackdown on the Lions or something. They always use that after.
They would do that anyway, though. You know what I mean? They would find some corny way to work that in. That's broadcasting. You gotta parlay into the next thing here.
I'll tell you what.
Longtime brass Renee Paquette. They don't use her WWE name. Will join Hall of Famer Booker T. And Superstars for a special guest of the brand new WWE Thunderdome from Orlando.
We got to get into this other WWE news too. And you know what I'm talking about.
But I just want to tell you that there'll be a kickoff show at 6:30 Eastern.
7:30 Eastern.
7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Excuse me. And then they'll go into the season premiere of Fox. So you get a special extra 30 minutes. And that looks like it'll be like a red carpet kind of preview type thing. Maybe some promos or something in there. What was the big news that you want to lead into there, pal?
Well, Florida has some news for wrestling fans.
Tell me about it.
They have announced, I believe it might have been yesterday, it might have been today, but I think it was yesterday, that it is basically no holds barred now. So they originally announced the Miami Dolphins can now run 65,000 fans in their stadium. No social distancing, no limits at all. And it has been revealed that Tampa, Raymond James Stadium, where WWE wants to go, today revealed that they are allowed to go at 100% capacity, no restrictions, no social distancing, and Vince is licking his chops right now.
There's a possibility of that. Now, does this mean that WWE is going to do that event with those circumstances?
I hope
no.
So. I
you
hope
think
so?
I can see that.
I
just don't see it being a good look for them. I don't see it being a good look for them internationally. I know. Hey, John, I know your take on it. You're waving your hands on it here. But this is a publicly traded company. This is an internationally publicly traded company. And if they did that during a pandemic, do you want to look like Sturgis? Do you want to get that rub on you?
This is March, though. We have almost 6 months.
True. We do have almost 6 months, and it is a very, very fluid situation. If we get the vaccine as quickly as it can, and there's a green light to go, and you may even have 65, 80,000 people, no social distancing, no limited capacity, those different things we talked about.
The easiest solution for this.
What's that?
You got your Ticketmaster. Everybody that had a ticket for last year's WrestleMania, you get the same seat at this WrestleMania.
Oh no, I gave up my ticket for WrestleMania. I bought tickets for WrestleMania. I got my refund.
But for real, they could sell right now, and then they could do the same thing they did last year if they have to, and you get a refund if they have to, cancel it. But I think you want to try to sell as many seats as you can, as quick as you can.
Logistically, I can tell you from working in live internet, logistically, that is a nightmare to deal with. Nightmare.
They have experience with it now.
True. But getting back to whether or not this event's going to happen, obviously, we've been talking about this for the better part of the week. It does look like WrestleMania is not going to be in Los Angeles, California, at SoFi Stadium, though that is not confirmed by anyone in Los Angeles with SoFi or anyone with WWE. No one in WWE has confirmed that they're bringing the event back to Tampa, but we do know that dates have been reserved in the March timeframe for them to do this event.
It looks like
they're still their travel packages are going to go on sale in a few weeks.
Well, I think they're going to have to promise LA they'll come back in 2022.
Sure.
Yeah.
And or bring a SummerSlam there or something like that, or bring another event there of some kind.
But I do think that them reserving everything in Tampa largely has to do with how much of the rumor mill is getting out there, and you can't risk other people swooping in and reserving this stuff,
No.
So you got to be ahead of your game.
Yeah, and what's going to happen there?
Somebody else is going to reserve Raymond James Stadium. AC/DC's coming in to take it.
Yeah, and AC/DC's going to be doing a big. They're going to do that big tour, know, and I mean, if you're a Live Nation, you're one of those big ticket promoters. You want to have these big acts, and WrestleMania is one of them that is going to come out and be able to fill these venues again. And if the timing works out where we can go and do these things and it's safe, and maybe we get lucky, and we get, God bless people who work in science right now that are working behind big pharmaceuticals to make these vaccines ready. If they're ready and they come out, I think you do those events. And part of me is, this still worries me though, is you do those events and you have people showing up to the event that aren't vaccinated, and the vaccine is just kind of coming out internationally. It then leads me into a bunch of different questions. Do you get into the event if you are vaccinated? Do you get in the event if you're not? Can you internationally travel into the show? WrestleMania is a huge international destination show for people. It creates a whole lot of different questions that still aren't answered because we don't have enough information about it yet. But it does look like things are in the move for WWE's biggest event of the year. A couple weeks ago when we were talking about this, I was thinking that they would push WrestleMania back into the summer at some point. Now, looks like they're sticking with that springtime frame. And with sports moving around so much, I don't know. We're going to have an NHL season that starts in January.
I look forward to the Monday night where we do our post show with me on site in an arena. That's what I look forward to. Because I'll still be here for the post show.
You have a controversial take. You want to get right back out there in it. You're younger than me. If you God forbid, if you got
gotta
sick,
risk it for the biscuit.
Oh, come on, man. You're getting us in trouble. If they do this still under COVID times with fans,
I think won't be there.
I would be on the edge of going. I'm doing some events. I'm doing the Milwaukee Comedy Festival this week, but it's limited. These are very, very limited low-key events. I'm doing the AAW Live series. Another show coming up October 29th, by the way, on Fight.tv. I'm doing those, and those are very limited audiences, and you kind of know what crowd you're dealing with and stuff like that. I think it's asking a lot of 80,000 people to travel in somewhere and do it. Do I think people will do it? Yeah, I know you'll do it, John, but I just think it's a lot to ask of people, and I think it goes well beyond wrestling. But if a vaccine drops before time, if a vaccine comes out in time, I don't think it will stop the event from being like that. If we get a vaccine in January, even if people aren't vaccinated, people are going to show up to that event. They're going to try and do it.
You'll be there.
If you know what, maybe you got me on the hook. If it's safe, I'm in. If it's safe, I'm in. So there you go. John's is happy. If it's safe, I'm there. So we'll see what happens. It's a changing situation. More WWE news, as we learned recently that prior to the pandemic, WWE is looking at the idea of doing a second television show with NXT. And that this show would be mirrored off the concept we've seen of Raw Underground. They maybe even filmed a pilot with it. And a prominent WWE producer and writer was really behind the concept and was very much pushing the idea of a WWE Bloodsport Kumite Fight Club concept. And obviously that has been played into Raw. We haven't seen the past 2 weeks because of the COVID issues. They don't want to have that many people on the ring. They think it's kind of unnecessary. I think it'll be back sooner than later. But what do you think of this concept of WWE having a second NXT-based television show? Seems like a little long in the tooth. Maybe a special now and then, but I don't know about a whole second television show.
Maybe some overkill here. Maybe if you make it like 205 Live and it's only on the network and you can watch whenever you want. I just don't see people tuning in on TV to watch this, especially because the casual fans often don't know these NXT guys. We're talking Evolve, like below NXT guys that I wouldn't even know. Like,
you know of, but you don't know them, right? Like, and I see
I might not. I don't know a lot of. I might not even know of them.
Sure, okay.
But I mean, you get my point. Like, I just don't think it's going to be successful unless they don't care if it's going to pull in numbers like, say, WWE Backstage was when it was like 0.2, 0.1.
This one here coming from Jeff Croup saying, no more underground crap. No more underground crap.
Unless they bring back the dancers.
Yeah, Jeff also flees. I don't think WWE will bring 80,000 people. He doesn't think they'll do that under the current circumstances. And James Esponto saying big rock bands like Kiss are going to reserve stadiums. So it's interesting.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, just looking at how things are canceled or put together here, and people bring up big rock bands and stuff like that. I've heard rumblings of people trying to get those events, those dates locked, and once we can get a green light, we're going to put tickets on sale. It's all a moving situation.
I got a whole bunch of Ticketmaster credit waiting to be spent.
Oh, dude,
I got a whole bunch.
Because you held off on those tickets, you didn't let them go, right?
I could be ringside for not WrestleMania, but a pay-per-view. I could probably be front row with the credit that I have.
All right, that's not bad. So definitely a lot to cover here in the world of wrestling. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Did you have fun? Did you enjoy this video? Go ahead and give it a thumbs up. All right, if you're following us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of different content on there, including all of our WrestleZone wrap-ups every single week. We do 4 of them on a pay-per-view week. Sometimes we'll do even more. We'll have another episode looking at the WWE Draft. We'll talk about draft picks before we're done here tonight. So a lot of content for you to consume on our YouTube, on our podcast, and on our Facebook. Thank you so much to the people who watch our show all the time on the Facebook, the Jeff Groups, the James Espanto, Fernando Taguais, the Tracy Ransoms, all right, the Laura The Rocks, the Michael Covingtons. Thank you guys so much. People saying my audio went out. Can you hear me?
I can hear you absolutely.
Okay, cool. So someone's saying my audio went out there. All right, I just want to make sure. I just saw that comment. It kind of spooked me. So thank you guys so much for checking out the show. Let's get out of here on draft picks. We have the draft on Friday that'll start on SmackDown and of course continue on Monday. We've talked about some big moves that can happen. We talked about how NXT can do it. What's the biggest, most talked about pick you think we're going to see? Who's going to make the biggest move? Are we going to see someone return in the draft out of nowhere? Are we going to see a champion move? I'm thinking a lot of people think Roman Reigns maybe moves over to Raw.
No, absolutely not. I think if we get any champions switching brands, it would have to be some kind of a tag mix-up. I don't see champions moving. If we're talking big moves, you have to think one of the biggest ones is going to be Strowman going to Raw. That's kind of big.
He's kind of already there.
I know, but he's still a big name,
I don't know what it would mean.
I got to throw out this wild card pick, and we talked about this earlier.
Sure.
Bobby Roode to NXT. Something about that just really fits with me.
I think it's so odd that NXT is not a part of this draft.
I think they will be, but I don't think it needs to be announced beforehand. I think it's going to be a surprise.
Okay. Like they do all those things.
Now, what's your sleeper pick? Not necessarily somebody that you think has to move, but just a sleeper pick,
Where they would benefit from a move.
Yes, people might not expect it.
I think for some of the women, those picks are more interesting. I think if you're looking
Lana
at
to SmackDown.
Who knows? Her and Natalya, they're definitely a tag team, but they're not a tag team that anyone thinks is in a position to win anything. I don't see them breaking up Liv and Riot. I think they have a chase at the titles. I do think they could do something interesting where I think Charlotte shows up in this. So that was where I was going to go. You beat me to it. I think this is how they bring Charlotte back. I think this is how they bring Charlotte back. Maybe on SmackDown. I think that would be the best spot for her.
Dare I say, Ronda Rousey.
We're in a confusing situation here with Ronda Rousey.
Her contract's going to be up.
Her contract is up. They have 6 months left on it. But she's one of those rarefied air people in the kind of Brock Lesnar territory where they get to call a lot of their own shots.
Been training.
What?
She's been training for a return to the ring, and I just get that you mentioned Brock Lesnar. What about Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar's a free agent, but I think him would be a huge name that would show up in there. I do think we get the bigger names announced on Friday. I do think you'll see some interesting moves for hardcore fans, but for a mainstream fan, these moves are going to be on Friday. That is the A show for WWE right now in terms of audience. I think that's the show that's going to see the biggest moves. If we see that Ronda move, if we see that Charlotte move, if we see Roman Reigns move or Brock, those names are going to get rolled out on Friday. And that does make it feel like this is a show you want to see live and be a part of the conversation.
I love how WWE posted, I think it was on Facebook or Twitter, but it was like one of those massive like pictures of everybody, and it was like, comment who you think's going to get drafted. And front and center on that thing was John Cena. Like, come on now. He's not getting drafted. That's like, okay, CM Punk's getting drafted to SmackDown.
Yeah, but I think if you have John Cena come back, and WWE needs him,
Rock is getting drafted to SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean WWE needs them. Let's get frank. WWE needs those big name talents. They need those people. You don't think so?
They need, and you know who I'm going to say next. That's who they need.
Who?
A Chicago native.
Oh, Chicago native. I don't know about that.
But come on. Why are you hating on your own?
I'm not hating on my own. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, I'm resigned to the idea that I'm not going to see CM Punk.
Okay, so then give me your one superstar that you think should go back to NXT.
Oh,
a male. I'm
wearing a Daniel Bryan shirt. I've been saying it before. I think Daniel Bryan in NXT, at least for a little while, and a handful of big matches, would be really, really cool. I think him in a big time match with Balor would be cool. Him in a big time match with Tommaso Ciampa would be exciting. Him in the match with Kushida or somebody like that would be.
And you said if you had to call somebody up from NXT, it would be Tommaso.
It would be Tommaso. I think he's a very underrated psychological performer, and I think him in the ring.
Him and Orton
would be. Oh God, that'd be fantastic.
Leg slaps.
Yeah, yeah. You brought the leg slaps thing. I remember we had Robert D. Felice on a few episodes. He said AJ Styles in NXT would be cool, but I don't think we're going to see those NXT moves until after, SmackDown and Raw kind of have their piece. I think Raw needs the most right now. It's a long show. They have some very, very tired feuds that they've been playing with here since the spring. Street Profits are a fun team, but they don't have a lot of fun teams to go up against. I think
they have none. There's none.
Yeah, I mean, they need some teams here. I mentioned, I think Tucker and Otis going over there is a possibility. I think Lucha House Party going over there would be something that'd be exciting too. I mean, I think in terms of, you look at the names you have on SmackDown, the mid card, maybe a Jeff Hardy moves. He's still a very popular guy. Maybe they do a little switcheroo and Hurt Business goes over to SmackDown. So there's a lot that's going to move here. I think this is going to be a much more talked about draft than people think going in. I think this is going to be a sleeper draft overall in the sense of how much it shakes up things, and WWE needs it. There's a lot of tedium that they have now, specifically in the mid-card. They have some exciting things, but they do need a fresh shakeup going into what could be, hopefully, a very odd WrestleMania season, where they're going to need some programs that are red hot. And like I said, maybe we get that green light go. We all get the needle in our arm and bang, we're off to a WrestleMania time where we're trying to do as many live events as we can. And hopefully that happens in the spring. They got to have some exciting programs that fans want to come out and buy their tickets to see live.
Absolutely.
And in doing that, we're going to have to settle up some dance partners here coming up here in the winter and get there. So I do think this will be an interesting draft. The more I think about it, the more I think it'll be big for all three brands. And hopefully it's big for all three brands. And there isn't like a brand that gets robbed in the process. What's up?
Does somebody come up from 205 Live like Tony Nese to Raw or SmackDown?
They've done some of those. And it would be an interesting thing. I think Swerve Scott didn't win that NXT Cruiserweight Championship. And people thought he would. I think Swerve would be the biggest name you could pull from NXT that would surprise people, but make a lot of sense. And I think he would make a lot of sense for it to be plucked.
But to make it clear, you think that it's possible that we could get somebody, and I'm just going to throw a name out there, somebody like a Jane Storm that's a free agent be into this draft?
That would be surprising. I think Ronda Rousey you can kind of put in that category too, in terms of like an outside player that just gets thrown in there. But WWE's done that before. I mean, they introduced AJ Styles out of nowhere in the Royal Rumble, and it really moved the needle. When WWE has these foundational things where you get 1, 2, 3, 4 name. Like there's just something fun about that. And there's something very exciting, and it makes even the casual fans and the hardcore fans, when you get that intersection between someone who watches it now and then and follows it, maybe going into WrestleMania season, and the person who watches WrestleZone all the time and watches their show, when you get that intersection, you get the reveal, there's a lot of expectations. But I think this year the expectations are low, but WWE recently, you know this, John, delivers very, very high when the expectations are low.
So what do you think about the presentation? Do you think we're going to get this return of one person from SmackDown fights one person on Raw and the winner gets a draft pick?
That would be really annoying.
Or do you think it's just going to be SmackDown gets this number of draft picks and we're going to announce them every 20 minutes or whatever?
I say announce them every 20 minutes and kind of keep it exciting, and then have matches.
Adam Pearce, Postman Pearce with his envelope.
Yeah, I mean, are we going to get the weird War Room stuff we got last year where it was like, all right, the NBC people.
The Fox NFL team announces the picks.
Yeah, I mean, I thought those were okay. Like when they had people from Fox Sports kind of introduce picks and stuff like that. I think it's
the people from Modern Family on USA Network are announcing the next pick: Aaliyah Mysterio to SmackDown.
You don't get to hang out with your family anymore.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot to follow up with. We will have a show hopefully late Thursday afternoon. I'm going to be on the road here. I'll be on the road in a weird year. I'm going to be doing 3 shows. 3 shows. I thought I was just doing 1, but I'm doing 3 shows from the Milwaukee Comedy Festival, and you can watch them all live for $15. You're going to see live, independent, top-tier stand-up comedy from Beer City, USA. And I know a lot of Zoom comedy. People have talked about this. Doing Zoom comedy is very, very odd. This is a show where we're going to have social distant live audiences, and you can watch it live from wherever you are. If you like me and you like what I'm doing and you like the podcast, go to Milwaukee Comedy Festival's website. $15. You get to watch 9 shows. It started tonight. And you can join that show for the first one I'll be doing 20 minutes with the great Mike Hover and Tim Brennan, a wrestling fan. He will do some wrestling jokes. I know I will do some wrestling jokes for you guys watching. And get the pay-per-view. It's $15, 9 shows. And you get to support independent comedy in a great city like Milwaukee, and the people at the Laughing Tap are putting that together. All the shows Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. Central from the Laughing Tap. Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. Central from the Laughing Tap as well. Also, catch me on air this weekend. This Saturday afternoon, I'll be on air on 101 WKQX. So you can stream that anywhere in the world. I know, John Clark, we got you in the news desk at what website?
WrestleZone.com, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. And then you can check me out on Twitter, John R. Clark 12. And right here on this show, Monday and Wednesday nights, along with pay-per-view post shows too.
Yeah, you're doing a whole lot, buddy. I appreciate you getting you into the fold here too.
I'm working my way up the totem pole. I'm earning myself more shows.
You're earning like achievements or achievement unlocked or something like that.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining the show. Looking forward to everything here. I'm going up to Milwaukee, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wash my hands all the time. I'm going to keep my social distance. I'm not going to be in like tight little crowds. Be smart, guys. Continue that. It's got to be disciplined. That's how we get through this whole thing. Is we're disciplined. You wear that mask when you're outside. I'm going to wear a mask everything I do in Milwaukee before I get on stage. So hope the breast, send me all the hope me the breast, hope the best, and send me all that positive energy while I go up there and do this thing. I will continue to do shows after that, even though it looks like I'll be in a quarantine for a week and a half just to be safe. As that's on one of the states I have to do that when I leave the state of Illinois. So thank you guys so much for supporting everything here. We'll be back with some more content for you. Make sure you have your notifications on. Make sure you like us on YouTube. And subscribe and turn those notifications on Facebook. You like and follow so you know when we go live, and subscribe to the podcast as well. 2 Dynamite Dudes, our AEW focus show, drops this Friday. Some really fun stuff from them, from the D'Angelo brothers. So much fun. Thank you so much for supporting wrestling, because when watching wrestling, you are